again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Woodpeckers Deep Dive. My name is Jeff Farris. Welcome to the Woodpeckers Model Shop. Today, we're going to take a closer look at Woodpeckers' new Spline Jig. This was introduced a couple of weeks ago, and we've had some questions on social media and on our customer service line. I want to address those for you so you know exactly what you're getting into when you look at the Spline Jig. All right, let's get started. Now, one of the things that people asked about several times and even made some jokes about was the probability that we're going to trip our saw stop's brake function by running into it with the aluminum of our jig. And while that's certainly possible, it's not very likely. So after you have your setup ready, you have the spline jig all set up, ready to go, you have your depth of cut where you think it should be, just take it before you turn the saw on and run it over it once or twice and make sure that you're not hitting. As long as you don't hear any contact and the light stays green on the switch box, it's all good. If, on the other hand, you happen to have that saw high enough to hit, you can hear it and you can see that the light is faulting. So just double check before you start anything. Now, another thing that we had a lot of interest in was our angled splines. They look sort of like a dovetail, but there's no dovetailing to them. It's all just a straight spline. And we're achieving that by changing the angle of our table saw blade. Let me show you how I do it. The first thing we need to do is get our depth of cut close. So we're going to take the spline jig, put it over top of the blade. I'm going to take the joint that we're going to cut, drop it in there like that. And you can see that's all the way as deep as it could go. If we want to follow that 1/3, 2/3 rule, we're going to drop that down about like that. Now that gets us in the ballpark. Since we are doing it on an angle, we need that just a tiny bit higher. So I'm going to bring that up just a little bit from there. Then we'll lock the height. And next we'll adjust the angle. Now we're going to set the angle. I like it somewhere between 15 and 20 degrees. You just want to experiment with that and find the look that you like the best. We'll go with 20 this time. Now, to achieve this dovetail look, we need the angle of our blade to be going toward the middle of the box on both sides. So that means that we need our reference from this edge. If we reference off this edge of the saw over here, the angle is going to be going the wrong way. It'll be going toward the edge of the box instead of toward the middle of the box. So we're going to take our reference from this side. I'm just going to bring my joint over here and get the position roughly where I want it. Then we're going to set the rip fence. And then finally, when we get it where we want it, we're going to bring a stop against that edge, lock the stop, and just for safety's sake, we're going to put one on the other side as well. Okay, now we can take our reference off of that side, push against this as we lock the rip fence. Now we can push against our stops and make our cut. Now for our second cut, all we have to do is take this, turn it like this, and put the edge back against here, same corner, and now that's facing in toward the center of the box again. And there's our angled spline joint. So we can vary the appearance of this by changing the distance between the edge of the box and the slot. We could put 2 in there if we wanted to, but you can see that there are lots of different approaches to that. This one is wider. This one's a little bit narrower. Lots of different ways that you can make that look. Now that's enough straight splines. Let's do some work on the router table. Now, we had several people ask us on our dovetailed splines, not very many questions about how to cut the groove. That's pretty straightforward. The questions were, how do you make that dovetail spline? So let's set that up. The first thing we need is a sample of the groove that we'll be cutting. So we want to use the same bit that we're going to use to make the splines. So I'm just going to make a dovetail groove with the bit that we'll be using. Now we'll make our spline material to fit the groove we just cut. Now the material that we're going to use to make our dovetail stock is just a little bit taller than it needs to be. The spline that we put in will actually be about a ½ inch tall, but this is about a full inch tall. The reason we do that is our dovetail bit is going to cut away the material. If we make it just the size we need on the outfeed side of our fence, it's not going to have anything to guide off of, and we're going to have a problem. So by making it taller, we're going to end up with a piece that looks sort of like a key. And then after we insert it into our spline, we'll cut this piece off. That way we have something to keep against our fence. So let's make a test cut and see if we're close. That's just a little too snug. I'm going to take the micro adjuster, move the fence back just a little bit, and try again. So I cut a small chunk of the groove stock that we made earlier to test this. We'll see how that fits, and I think that's just what we're looking for. It's a nice drag fit on there. Slides all the way from one end to the other. That'll make some beautiful keyways. Now I'll set up my second feather board and we'll run our section of stock. Now I have my fence positioned and my stops on the spline jig positioned, and I am going to use one of our pivot clamp hold downs just to make sure nothing moves while I'm in the middle of the cut. Just put that in there, clamp it down like that, and now we know we've got a secure grip as we're going through that dovetail bit. Beautiful fit. Now we'll just go ahead, cut the rest of the slots, glue in all the keys, then take a flush trimming saw, trim them all flush, sand them out, and we're good to go. It'll end up looking just like this one. Hey folks, thanks so much for watching today. Hope you enjoyed this closer look into Woodpeckers Spline Jig. If you enjoyed the show today, be sure and give us a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you know about every one of our great videos right when they come out. Now there's a link for the product video, and down in the description there's a link that'll take you to the product page on our website. Again, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Woodpeckers Deep Dive.